Open R. Okay, this is a very quick introduction to RQDA. What I'm going to show you is a video for qualitative researchers that are maybe taking on a large literature review. That's the context of this display and discussion. You can also use RQDA for data analysis or analytics. If you're a qualitative researcher, instead of writing everything down on say a Word document and highlighting and then printing it out and cutting it out and putting it on note cards and assembling it all over the room. This is a way to substitute for that. There are some people that have been trained that way, and this is just a nice way to do it. It involves a little bit of coding, computer code, and so we'll get into some of that in just a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're looking at the R console. R is a statistical computing language. It's used by academics and those in data sciences. So for those that are not aware of it, you can download it. It is a free package. It runs very powerfully, and it's very elegant in terms of creating data frames that then get pushed off to data analysis with statistical code in the R framework. Again, it is an extremely powerful and extremely fast way to call up traditional behavioral sciences measures such as students' t-test, ANOVA, regression models, all kinds of non-parametric statistics as well. And so it is very highly advisable that if you are in the business of doing either qualitative or quantitative analysis, that you download it and see what you can make of it. Anyway, I've already downloaded R. If you are working with a Mac system, you're going to go ahead and need to download a few other things that go along with R. And so what we're going to do is R runs through packages, and we are going to call up a package that has already been installed. So when we install packages, there's a very specific code for that, and once they're installed, we call it up using the library command. In this case, I'm calling up RQDA, which is our package. Noticing that it does install its dependencies as well, I can go ahead at this point at the prompt and type in RQDA open and close parens. Notice that that little caret, that little side caret or little arrow tells us when everything has been parsed out by the computer, and it will allow us to continue. One thing that I do want to note is that those qualitative researchers that are working on a Mac and wish that they had access to, for example, in vivo with all of its sophisticated pieces, I'm not going to argue against or for in vivo, but one of the beauties about the R statistical language is that it operates in any system. So you could be a Unix user, a Linux user, sorry, a Mac user, or a Windows user, and still have access to all of R's functional capabilities, including its unique graphs and charts and tables, which are very high quality. So I've already opened up a project, I've created a project, but if you're starting from scratch, you would have to find a place to store your project and then call it up when necessary. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to open the project. And so we're going to go to Documents. We're going to go to where I left it. And the file type is RQDA. This is where everything gets stored. And noticing that I am interacting with everything, I've gone ahead and loaded that file. Okay. And the R console basically will tell you what's going on. It did say it does throw errors, but those are essentially things that we don't really have to worry about at this point in time. There's certain error messages that you do want to pay attention to. All right. So here we are. I'm going to show you the files that I've uploaded, and I've uploaded several of them. They consist of .txt files that come from files that have been downloaded as PDFs and have been the information extracted from Read Iris. So the Read Iris will offer you several different abilities to either save it as a Word document or as a TXT file, and other options as well. So we want to use the .txt, and I went ahead and encoded it as UTF-8. The defaults generally are AC, ASC2, I believe that's correct. But if you're going to go ahead and use it, use UTF-8, you can go ahead and put that in the preferences so that your the RQDA will understand what you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a piece of writing that I've already coded up, just to give examples. And so I've already created codes. When you create code, you just add a little pop-up menu will show up here. Not menu, but a little pop-up will show, and then you're going to name the code. Now, notice I have several codes overlapping. So, oops, so there's a little cutoff there. That was my fault in doing that. Anyway, the environment and possible cells we can find here. And so once you code, you'll get a little highlight here, and then the text will turn blue for stuff that's an example of stuff that's not been coded. There you have it. Okay, so as we're examining that, we can go ahead and look up information. I've been keeping a file on this process. So what we can do is batch import files, which is what I did. This is the code that actually works for that. And then we can export codings to HTML. Okay, so let's go ahead and code something really quickly. This is a limitation to the study. I'm just going to code it under facts. Notice that I highlighted the text, I highlighted facts, and I hit mark. It says that a warning box hits. It says it has failed to write it to the database, but that is in fact not correct. If we go back, we can see that the limitation was in fact marked under facts, which is the code that we looked at. There's facts, and there it is there. Notice this warning message, which was initially given when it recognized that it was UTF-8 markdown in the TXT file, but notice that afterwards we do not have any other error or warning messages. Okay, now what I've done, just for the sake of brevity, is I've gone ahead and marked up two different files, because ultimately what we're going to need is to look at how the codes come together between different articles. So what we can do is, with a little bit of code, we can export the codes. And so this command tells R to go ahead and take and name the file exported codings.html, and then we're going to go ahead and do that. So now a pop-up does show itself. Now I can go ahead and take out just the codes for science and gender, or I can mark them, I can highlight all of them, which will indeed give us access to all of them. So I'm going to do that now on a Mac. What you would do is you would hit the Control key as you are continuing to highlight all of these, and then you hit OK. OK will give you the text file exported, I'm sorry, the HTML file exported codings. And so once we go ahead and do that, we can see now all of the codes. Notice it gives you the file name itself, where in the document it is, and these are the codes. Okay, so if we wanted to go ahead and just look at methods, we could do that. This is only one method that I've marked up. Okay. And that's it. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and send this file to another coder. Maybe if you're working on, for example, you know, you've got a team of people that are coding up literature reviews or literature, you could do that. The other thing that you could do is go ahead and export this information as a, a table or a document that shows graphical information. What I'm going to do is show you another aspect of this that you can run, noting that we have a GUI, or a general user interface, that gives us everything step by step. Commands are generally given in the R console, and this is generally speaking what we would expect. Normally we do not have fancy GUIs such as this, with the exception of being RStudio. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to type summary codings in, and notice now we're given a summary of the codes themselves. So we can just have a peek at this. I'm going to go ahead and run it again, just so that we can try to get it. Oops, sorry about that. We're just going to go ahead and hit the up arrow key, and that will give it to us again. Now see, we've got a nice little table of pieces here. So for example, it gives you the number of codings for each code. In colonialism, we only have one code. The average number of characters will also be given. So if you're into that, you can definitely get the means as average, and then you can get the number of files associated with each code. So notice, because I'm only at a very beginning part of this, each of the files are pretty much given coded once with each code. And that's how we do this. So this is a very brief introduction to how this works. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and export this as a table and include it in a study report as well. So that is a very quick introduction. I hope this helps.